Good evening everybody, I hope you're well. We are at part 12, can you believe it? Part 12, the final part of our quilt for the 12 days of Christmas, and my goodness me, I've seen some most amazing creations in the Making It Special group. So if you're not part of that, do join the Making It Special Facebook group and you can post your pictures of all the things that you've made along the way on the 12 days of Christmas. Now it could be that you've made the whole thing, or it could be that you've made just parts of it. Hi Kath. You know, you might have decided just maybe one of those squares was enough for you, and that that would, you know, that you'd stop there, and maybe you could put a binding on there or a border on there and create maybe a cushion or something like that. Hi Marge, hi Dawn, Nicola, Jill, Melba, lots of lovely people joining us. So yeah, so this is part 12, the final part of our 12 days of Christmas. And it's been absolutely fantastic. We've consistently had well over 100 people watching every evening, which is quite amazing really. And it's been really good fun for me, and I've managed to fit things in so I could, well, keep up with you basically. And hi Shirley, Krita, Gillian. Yeah, so it was really a case of keeping up with you, because you've been doing so well. I'll just get you up on my screen here. There we go. Let's make sure I can't hear it, that's good. Yeah, so how quickly has that gone? It's been amazing. And we've all done different things. Julie has done hers, finished hers, we've got the binding to do. Alison posted her Cafe and Black quilt. We've had a gorgeous pink designs, we've had Gemma's as well. Lots and lots, oh, and Nicola's blue and cream designs. So we've seen lots and lots of creations made. So it's been an absolute testament to your staying power and your commitment to it, and obviously you've those people that have taken part and posted the pictures, you've obviously enjoyed it, and yeah, hopefully something will come out of it. So don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is a recording and you'll be seeing this about an hour and a half later than scheduled. So you'll be seeing this about 8:30 on Saturday evening, the 6th of January. If not, you can watch it anytime. And I'm adding 11 and 12 to my playlist. So if you want to see all the videos together, go to the playlists and you'll find it there. There's two actually, 12 Days of Christmas. The first one is from last year, and obviously this one is the second one and the newest. And obviously in the next week or two, I'll be adding all the techniques that we covered on which particular video, so hopefully that might help you, and I can do a list as well. I can sort of devise a list that I can put on my page here. But you know, like anything on Facebook or, well, YouTube, wherever, they tend to get lost. So if you see it, save it, you do a screenshot, that type of thing, if it's of interest to you, and then you'll know which video to go to see which technique. I think that would be a good idea. Anyway, it's lovely to have your company for the last time now. And we're going to cover a few things this evening. Hi Helena. Hi Jackie, hi Julie. Julie, how far did you get with yours? Have you done your binding? Have you done your quilting even? Maybe not. Quilting can take some time. It's also figuring out what sort of quilting you're going to do. So we will cover that. But the first thing I want to do is actually show you two ways of binding, because this is really important, because this is your finishing off part and it needs to be nice. The first bit of binding I'm going to do is the traditional binding, if you like, where we just do mitered corners as we stitch along, and the second is actually a lot easier. It makes a beautiful corner, which sometimes Those sharp corners on the traditional mesh method can elude us, can't they? Because sometimes they go rounded and you think, why? You know, you've done everything you should have done, but they still go rounded. And you know, you can use all sorts of tools and gadgets and gizmos to try and get that lovely mitered corner, but sometimes it does fail us. I've done 2.5-inch strips. That's kind of like a traditional width. I must admit, when they go to my long armour, she does 3.5-inch. I think it's 3.5-inch. I'm pretty sure it's 3.5-inch strips that she uses to get a really quite a nice wide binding, but it's all personal preference, isn't it? 2.5 inches, 3 inches, absolutely fine to do your binding with. So we're going to run through the basics of that, and then we'll go on to what sort of quilting you can do. So I've got mine pinned behind me, and obviously you can't see it all, but you'll get the gist of how it looks almost finished. And I've done all the embroidery as well. All of the flowers have now been stitched. I was lucky enough to get enough time to do that today, so I've layered it up just as we talked about last night, with the topper, the wadding and the backing in those stepped measurements. I think that works out very well. Oh, Anna says she's got a printer, so it's all go here. Oh, Anna, well done. There's so many printers to choose from these days, and you're never too sure, are you, which one you should go for. So I'm not sure if I'm actually too zoomed in on my overhead, so I'll have a look obviously as we get to it. But we're going to, as I said, look at two ways of binding. So I'm going to bring in a pre-prepared square. So this is obviously oh, little bit too near. I've just come out a wee bit, so apologise for the washing. Let's just go just a wee bit. That's enough. That's cool. One of these days I'm going to get one of those automatic ones that I can just press a button. That'd be fun. So I've got just a tester square here. It'd be crazy to have well, you A, use my quilt, and B, to have full size. So we're going to do like a sampler, and this is like a 10-inch square, 10.5, 11. So we've got the staggered look with the backing as well, and this will be a very good example or sample to do a little bit of quilting on if you can't decide what you're going to do. So for instance, if you, we've got to assume we've quilted this because I want to cut this back now. So once you have quilted your quilt, you'll need to trim it back. Okay, so you need to make sure that the sides are all incredibly neat and tidy, ready to put your binding on. So let me get my ruler and my rotary cutter. So you've got to assume that we've quilted all of this. Obviously this could have wriggled here and there everywhere. It's usually not by very much, but it can sort of shrink things down a little bit, and actually it becomes a little bit obscure. So yeah, so once you've got that all quilted, you're going to trim this back. And after this 12 days, I'm going to have to put a new blade in my rotary cutter. It's as blunt can be. So use your ruler and your mat to make sure that all of your edges are razor sharp, and to use the lines on your ruler if you can, so you get the perfect 90-degree angle on your quilt. And if you need to cut it back a little more than what you expected, then it matters not. It's going to look absolutely gorgeous because it's been made with so much love and care. It's just lovely. Okay, so this is our first quilt. So you've got to imagine that we've done some quilting on here, it's all done, and now we've got to put our binding on. So I've got some binding ready. All I've done is cut my binding 2.5-inch strip. As I said, you could go bigger, or you could, let me just put my light on, that's it. You could go to 3 inches, 3.5 inches, okay? 2.5 is pretty sort of kind of, I'm going to say standard, but you know. So I've only got a small piece, so what I've done is I've cut a second piece and we will join these. So if you've never done this before, this is your moment to see how this is done. And what you want to do is make sure that you're crisscrossing these over and extending each side by 1/4 of an inch. And you've got to make sure that when it's cut, and it's cut, that they'll fold properly. So it's just working out how that goes, and I never can figure it out. So let me just get my pins. You're going to do right sides together, and the best way to make sure that you get this accurate, and I haven't got my heat eraser, I know exactly where it is, but you could use a pencil because you're going to stitch along here anyway, and you're just going to make a line from point to point, if you like, but that overhang of 1/4 inch is absolutely perfect. Now I've kept my cream thread in my machine, so it's pretty obvious where my stitching is, which will help you. So let me just bring that up to my machine, and it's pretty sort of standard sort of procedure, if you like. What I'm doing is that you're laying them right sides together, and you're just drawing that diagonal line across there. And oh well, it would help if I threaded my machine, so you know why, I'd left it ready to go from doing my free motion this afternoon. It was a lovely half an hour just doing that and getting those flowers done. It was really quite a treat. Now I always put my foot down when I go to thread my needle. Just make sure you've got enough length, because obviously when you put your foot down you're locking the tension discs and you can't get any more thread, but it gives you a bigger section, if you like, a bigger area to thread your needle. And it really helps if you're a little bit sort of challenged visually, or any other challenges. It's quite nice to have that extra space there. Okay, so let's make sure my iron's on, just in case I need to, well, I will need to press it a little bit, but let's just stitch across that line. It's quite a good idea to do a line, because that really does help you keep everything straight. So let's get the foot control in. Oh, feed dogs up. This is me thinking I was prepared. Not at all. So now you can see the stitch line beautifully, and you can then cut. I always cut up, cut across, and then cut across again, just to take my dog ears away. And look, I've got to press it because I've done it the wrong way, so that's okay. I can just fold that back, but that gives you the perfect 45-degree line. So let's take it to the ironing mat. It's one of those moments you think, I can't, this has happened to me the whole 12 days of Christmas, that I cannot concentrate on what I'm doing. It must be I've done too much. Now I do suggest that you open up the seam, because then it distributes the fabric and it does make a difference. I just need to get my wires out of the way. Right, so let's just take that all the way along now. I'm using some lovely Bella Solids. If any of you have ever used Bella Solids, you know why I'm saying lovely, because they are quite delicious to use. And to be honest, for me, a recent discovery. It's just something that never really crossed my door, but having done the workshop with Verushka, I thought, my goodness me, these are beautiful to work with. So now I'm a big fan, of course, and perhaps we'll see lots more of Bella Solid things over the next 12 months. Yeah. So you're folding it in half, you're giving it a nice press. Now some people don't like to press their binding. And of course that's totally your decision whether you do or you don't. They like the sort of, I suppose it's like a puffiness, isn't it, of leaving the binding just finger pressed. But actually by the time you've finished your project, you're going to press it anyway. I'd like to think you're going to press it. Okay, so let's take the end, and we need to start off correctly. Now there's several ways of finishing your binding off, but the easiest one that doesn't take a lot of effort is to actually fold your binding in half diagonally. So let's put the iron on it. You have to trust that I'm not going to burn my table. And you make a little pocket. So can you see that's made a little pocket, and it's all very, very neat. Now you can, if you want to, take some of this fabric away. You can literally cut across because you're not going to see any of it. So let's just do it now I've said it. So we can take it back a bit. You don't have to, it's just an option. And what you're going to do is when the tail comes back, you're going to tuck that in and carry on your stitching, and it really works well. The only other thing I would say is when you come to turn your binding over, you'll find sometimes that your binding pops out. So I use a little bit of glue, or you could use quilter's tape to hold that in place. So what we're going to do is start about here, so halfway down one of the sides. You just need to decide what side, it really doesn't matter. And we're going to start stitching. I prefer to stitch right from the end here to catch this tail, and then just carry on. Okay, so let's go to the side camera, and we'll have a look at it on the side camera as we go along. So let's get in there. Oh, Anne says she loves Bella Solids too. It got carried away watching day 3 on my catch-up. Oh, well done, Zoe. Yeah, well, they're always going to be there, which is lovely, isn't it? Really lovely that we've got that facility, I suppose. Now I'm going to just increase my stitch a little bit. You could go up to about 3, but because this is not necessarily it's not like top stitching or anything like that, but with quilting you have to have a very, very tiny stitch, usually about 2.2, and I think with the binding you could perhaps be brave and go up a few millimeters. So I was just going to have a look, see if I could find my stiletto, and it's probably not round there. I've lost it. Let me just have a look under here. Nope. I do like to use my stiletto, but as I haven't got it, I'm going to have to use the point of my scissors. I use my little scissors here because I like to hold everything down. Goodness knows where it's gone. Right, so 1/4 inch, and you might find when you come to this bit that this wants to lift up, so just stop and poke it under. We don't want anything ugly, and then come all the way down, and you're going to stop about 1/4 inch from that corner. So you stop just before that corner. Move your work so you've got a 45-degree angle going out to the corner, come across and break your thread, and that's what it looks like. Okay, and then all you're going to do then, your fold actually folds along that diagonal line, so you're going to fold it so when we look at it, let's hold it that way, might be better, that our long piece, our binding and the edge of our quilt is absolutely parallel, so it's just one long straight line. So it's not going to go like that, it's not going to go like that, it's going to go parallel. Yeah, so you're going to fold it back. You can give it a crease if you want to hold it there. You're going to fold it back on itself, yeah, and then you're going to start stitching from that corner. Again, 1/4 inch. Now by all means use your walking foot, because you are sewing multiple layers, and you could do this on the back and then flip it over to the front. you've always got that option, and actually it's quite a neat way, because then you can machine finish off your binding instead of hand stitching. So we're going to go 1/4 inch from that corner, move it to a 45-degree angle and come off. So every time we get to the corner, that's what it looks like. Fold it back on itself, so you've got that angle there, that 45-degree. You're following the line of your stitching really. You're folding it back on itself. Pin it if you want to. Use clips now, because you can use clips now because you've got the layers. And then start again. And you just carry on until you've done the whole thing. And just line everything up. Wish I put my walking foot on now, because this is literally walking. So up to the 45-degree line mark, I'm sorry, the 1/4 inch mark, do a 45-degree across the corner, and again you've got that beautiful angle there. Fold it up, bring it back. Let's do it flat on my desk. And there we go. So now you've got that folded back, so you can start stitching again. I mean, you could, if you're really brave, you could top stitch anyway, but you've got to make sure that what you see on the front is as beautiful as the back, which is not always possible. And this is really twisting. It's not happy at all. Right, so up to the corner, and it's sod's law that I've got my join right on the corner, but that's okay. It's just how it is. Good job we opened up the seam, didn't we? Can you see it? It's a little dark, isn't it, with that fabric? And then you're going to fold it again like you did before. Make sure that your binding is parallel to the edge. You can see how that looks. Bring it back on itself. Let's just make sure that's straight. I'll do it on my mat. And bring it back. And you know, nearly every time I make a quilt, a binding join is always on the corner. It's just how it is. Right, so there's our starting little sort of pocket there, if you like. And I'm going to cut my binding so it covers, well, it just butts up to that stitch line. Okay, so you can see where the fold is there. I'm just going to cut it so it butts up to that line there. So I'm going to measure it. So I'm about 5 inches away. So let's cut that. And be brave, it's going to be perfectly fine. And then all you're going to do is literally tuck it in the pocket. And you could use a little bit of quilter's tape or glue to hold that in place. And I've just literally tucked it in, look, can you see? Hopefully you can see. Looks quite dark on screen. Oh, perhaps it might be my cameras, mind you. So I'm just going to lift that out for a second. And as I get nearer, I'm just going to literally tuck it in. That's my little pocket. If it needs adjusting, then cut a bit more off. Make sure it sits nice and flat. I think that could do with a 2 millimeters taken off. Okay. So tuck it in. Oh, excuse me. Make sure it's sitting nice and flat. This is where a pokey tool is good to hold it all. Just make sure it's sitting flat. Just tucked a little bit, but I think we'll be okay. And then that's sitting right in that pocket there. And of course, like I say, when you flip it over, you might find this end comes out. So you can hand stitch this here, or you can pop a little bit of glue on. I've just caught it a little bit there. I could have done with cutting a little bit more off, but you get the idea. And then what we do is we can fold it back. So that's my little my little sampler, so you can just get hold. You can, if you want to, cut these corners off. I mean, I very rarely do that, but you can, just to take some of the bulk down if you think that is something that will help you. Just see, I think it's one of those things you find your own way with this type of thing, and then all you're going to do is like push the corners out. You'll end up, when you look inside, you'll end up with a fold already, so you could put your thumb on there to make sure that you continue with that fold, and so you end up with a really neat little corner there. But look at the back. You want to make sure that the back is as beautiful as the front, so all you need to do is make sure that it's the edge, the folded edge there, is sitting just over the top of your stitches, and then you need to just fold that back and carry on like that. I always, when I get to this point where I've got a beautiful point there, is to actually take that across to the iron and press it, just in case I lose it, which is often the way. So again, just find that crease, fold it over, push that back. You could go and take it to the iron and press it, and then again you've got a lovely, another folded lovely 45-degree corner, and you can do that all the way around. This is the one where you might, let me just cut that little piece there, where you might find, as I said, look, the end will come out, so that's something to bear in mind. A little bit of quilter's tape, just hold it in place is fine, and then flip it over, catch it, stitch it, put a clip there so it stays put, and then there is your so I've caught it a little bit there, which is a bit unfortunate, but there is your binding, and it's a perfect 45-degree line, and that's much better than a straight join. I mean, I would never do a straight join, but you might be tempted, but you can, it stands out more. So that would be your first sample of how you can put some binding on, okay? And all of this can be, as I say, clipped back, pinned back, taken to the iron, given a good press so it sits nicely, or finger press it if you don't want to make it flat, and then you're good to go, it's done. Now the other thing you want to remember is to include a who made it, and who it's for, and what date, and what it represents, and all that sort of thing. And you could put a folded square here, so I'm not sure I've got a square handy. Ooh, I should have thought about that. Oh, I'll take some of this, hold on. And if you've got the micron pens, this is where you could get them out again. I mean, you're not going to use yellow, you're going to use white, but make yourself a square. So this is a quick square. So quick, blink and it's gone. Oh, it's even a rectangle. You make it into a triangle, so fold it over. That's it, lovely. And then what you're going to do is you're going to include that into your seam allowance, and you're going to either embroider on here or write on here, and then you can include it. I mean, you can stitch it down, include it in your seam allowance here, stitch it down, and then when your binding is turned over, that little corner is then your memo, your history. So yeah, it's a good thing to do. Oh, there's Millie. So you can always time her. Yeah, so that's a good thing to do. Date it, as I say, put your name on it, the reason why you made it, who you've made it for, whatever you like. But it might be in 100 years' time, somebody will pick that up and think, I wonder who made this beautiful flowery quilt, and they'll have all the information on the back. So that's the number one form of binding. So the number two form of binding, so let me get rid of this colour, and we've now got a beautiful fuchsia colour, so I don't know if you'll see that any better than the other. And I've got a square, so you're going to have a rectangle, and you're going to do top and bottom first, and then you're going to do sides. And These scissors here you're talking about, Judith, these were from Crafter's Companion. I don't think they do them anymore, but it's worth having a look. They are incredibly good scissors, I must admit, really good. Yeah, they've never let me down. They're real sharp and accurate, cut right to the point as well, but I don't know if they still do them. It's worth a look. And there isn't any other name on there that gives me a clue as to who else might make them, so I do apologise for that. Okay, so Lorraine says, what make is it, please? Oh, the iron. The iron is a Swan. It's just a little one. It's quite nice. It fits nicely in your hand. The steam function is brilliant, and yeah, I mean, I've had mine now, well, I suppose about 3 months or so. And yeah, it does the trick. And I mean, it gets really hot, but it doesn't get, well, in my opinion, it doesn't get super duper hot. You know, it's okay. It's good for having right near your desk. And it's a bit more substantial than the travel irons, but it's still quite small. You know, it's still, you can see this. I mean, I haven't got big hands or anything. Okay, so let's get this started. So again, we're going to trim. So let me get my mat up again. I forgot I had to trim this. So we've got to assume that you have done all your quilting, and you now need to trim your quilt back really nice and neatly. So get your ruler, your rotary cutter and your mat out, and go all the way round, lining up, you know, your red line in this case on my ruler. Make sure that that line is sitting on the straight. Make sure you've got it right up to the edge, but just make sure that it's going, that you're covering all of the fabric, and that being the minimum. And then we've got a little bit to cut away here. And of course, by quilting and spraying, you know, the adhesive on and all of that sort of thing, is bound to move your fabric. It really is, because this was square when I cut it, but because I've you know, used my glue on it, it's distorted the fabric a little bit, I think. That's okay though. That's okay. So bring it back again, find a line so it's nice and you know, you've got that lovely 90 degree, and then just cut into it. Okay, so as I said, you've got to assume that this is a rectangular quilt. I mean, I could cut it down, but there's really no point. You've just got to remember what's top and what's bottom. So top and bottom are going to be done first. So we can cut off the selvage. You never ever 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 use a selvage for anything, apart unless you're making a selvage quilt. And you're just going to overhang about 1 inch on each end. Okay, so it's raw edges to raw edges, overhang by 1 inch, and you're ready to go. And you're going to stitch both sides. Let's just put a pin in just to hold it while I move it. Okay, so we're going to stitch from here to here, from there to there, or the other way around actually, right across. Okay, and that's our first 2 seams. So let's bring in the machine. Okay. So let me just get that in a little bit for you. So like I say, make sure you're overhanging by about 1 inch. So you're starting obviously on this edge here, and you're coming along, and I wish I'd put my walking foot on. This is where a walking foot absolutely comes into its own, because it just, without it and all the layers, it'll distort. So there we are, there's our first part. So let's do the other part. I'm just going to switch my iron on. Ready. Again, 1/4 inch. So we're going to go all the way along. Oh, Sue says she's never bound like this before. This is a foolproof, Sue. Really foolproof. It does make a lovely corner. As I said, some people, you know, for whatever reason, and I had a quilt recently that it might happen to me. I could not get any good mitered corners on this whole quilt, and I don't know why. I absolutely do not know why. Right, so let's go to the overhead. So now we've done top and bottom, so we're just going to push those out. So we're pushing it away so we can see our seam going along here. So turn it round. Don't forget, this is you know, top and bottom of your quilt. I'll just take that off my mat because that's distorting my ironing. Okay, give it a nice press. Let's flip it over and have a look at it. We want to make sure that our seam here is facing out. So give that a press, make sure it does stay out. I'll have another look at it. I do like to make sure. I love a press. I love a press. Okay. Let's see, it's just caught there, so I'll just give that another little iron. Okay. So now we get to do our sides. And so we're going to get another piece of our folded fabric. So again, this is 2.5 inches folded in half. And we go over the top, and we extend our piece by about 1 inch. So if I fold this back, that's how it looks. I'm going to push it out because that's how I want it to be. And with my second piece going down the sides, then it's going to overhang not only the quilt but the binding as well. Okay, so let's just give that a cut. If you're a little bit short of fabric, you don't have to do it by quite so much. I'm being generous here. So flip it round over the top of your, so this is your folded edge here. Okay, this is the fold. Again, raw edges to raw edges. So you're just going to take it over. And I'm doing it almost exaggerating. You don't have to, as I say, have it quite so far overhanging because we're going to cut it all off. But it's just a little bit of a safety mechanism. It's like everything, isn't it? So let's bring the machine in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stitch from the very top, right up here, all the way down and over the other binding at the bottom. So from here all the way down to here. Okay, so let's do that, and make sure that your seam, so the seam underneath, is still lying out. Yeah, so it's facing out. So let's get this stitched. So this one is obviously that little bit longer. Okay, so we've stitched all the way along, so you can see it because it's in the cream. Oh, there we are, Anne, well done. Well, there you go, go and get yourself a pair. They do a smaller pair, so let me just show you, because I just happen to have them in my tool bag here. I've got something digging into me. I don't know if I've got a pin in my trousers somewhere. They do a smaller pair, and if I was to measure this, the blade on this is what, 4 inches, and the whole length of the scissors 6.5. The pair that I really like, the blade measures about just over the 5 inches, 5.5 maybe, and the whole scissor measures 9 inches. Okay, you can just about see that. So do be careful. I mean, to be honest, I mean these are nice, but these are better. So as I say, I don't know Yeah, so I don't know what they have on their website now. Not privy to that sort of thing. Okay, so we're just, as I say, we're stitching all the way along. All the raw edges are together. Please use your walking foot, unlike me, because this is puckering, can you see? So I'm just going to give it a tuck, which is not good. So get your walking foot out. Make sure you keep that piece straight. So make sure that when you come to this part here, that is straight, that it hasn't wandered off. Okay, because you haven't got an edge to follow because you've got this part here. Oh, they have the 6 and the 9. Oh, that's good then. Oh well, fill ya boots. How super. I mean, they're both good pairs. It's just I happen to like the bigger pair. Okay, so now we're going to cut away our ends. So all of these can now be cut away. Now you can use your rotary cutter and your mat and ruler and all that sort of thing, but it's just as easy sometimes to get your scissors out, give it a little trim, little haircut. Now this is where you want to be really careful, because we've got to trim this, and this is a, just move that out of the way a sec, this is a fold line here, so I don't want you to get anywhere near that folded edge and cut. So it's not a bad idea to flip this over. Let me get my mat out and see if I can find a smaller mat. I'm sure I can. Let's get a small mat. Here we go. And cut from the side where you can see the fold, yeah? And you want to cut just away from it, can you see? But we want to neaten it off, so do your best, but don't cut on that fold. It would be ever so easy to do that, and I'm always nervous when I'm demonstrating in case I do exactly that and then get a whoops moment. Oh dear. That would be typical, wouldn't it? But we'll ignore it if we did. I wouldn't tell you. Right. Okay. So once we've done that, let's go back to our little quilt top again. So don't forget, this is the top, this is the bottom, because these haven't been folded back yet, but you can do that now. So get your iron again, and you can fold these back. Okay, so you might want to get some steam on them so they're really super duper neat, and you can fold those back. I must admit I'm going to use this little iron and put mortar in it. Okay, so don't forget which is your top and which is your bottom. You might want to put a pin in so you know. So I know this is my top. This is my bottom, because we're using a square, it's not easy always to remember. So with the top, you're going to fold that down on the wrong side. So flip it over, fold it down. Let's get some clips now. Where's my clip box? There we go. My lovely Natsuko. I love this little thing. It's just perfect for my desk. So let's get some clips in. Because we've got all the layers now, you can use your clips, it's fine. Now what you want to do really is try and get the folded edge just the other side of the stitching. Now ideally, in the ideal world, you're going to hand stitch this. If you're feeling brave, then you can top stitch with your sewing machine. Okay, but you're going to top stitch from the other side. So this is why you need to make sure that your fold is just the other side of the stitching. Okay, so both ends, I'll put my clips away and I wish I hadn't now. There we go. So this is coming over just the other side of the stitching, and ideally also you're going to have a nice strong machine that will take the next stage. It's not massive, it's not, you know, you don't need an industrial machine, but it helps if you've got a machine with a strong motor. Okay, so I'm leaving the ends there, but what I'm going to do is flip this over, and I'm just going to stitch right close to where the seam is, and then fingers crossed we catch down the binding. As I say, normally I would actually hand stitch this. It's much better, really much better. Okay, so let's just make sure that's all sitting beautifully. Take my clip away. Now you don't want to go onto the binding, so you don't want to be stitching this. So you can see where my needle is. My needle is right in the corner there, okay? And that's where you're going to start stitching. Tiny little back stitch, nothing major. And we're hoping that I folded this over correctly. If not, well, I can always go back and do it again. I don't lose sleep over stuff like that. So I'm right in the seam here, right in the seam. So where I stitched before. Try not to go onto your binding, but you know, it's a bit like stitching in the ditch. It's actually more complicated than you think. So let's just have a look, make sure that's correct. And get that. And again, when you get to the end, just a tiny little back stitch, and you can see where my stitching is. It's right in there, and I'm hoping, oh well, that's not such a bad job. It's a little bit wriggly, but I'm okay with that. And that's what the other side looks like. So let's quickly do the other end. So again, you're just going to start right in the corner. We're not anywhere near this, just right in the corner where my pink is, so my light pink. Okay, so again we're stitching right against that seam line. Try not to go onto your binding. But any other day of the week I would absolutely be hand stitching rather than top stitching. It depends on you really, and what, if you like to challenge yourself. Okay, so when we get to the other corner, we're just going to do a little back stitch and just secure that. So if we have a look at that, you can see that it's right in there, and then on the back, oh gosh, that's much better than the other one. Good, okie dokie. So from there, let's just, oh, I don't need my pressing mat. So now we need to fold over the sides. So we've done our top and bottom, looks lovely, but now we need to do our sides. Now, all we do with this is we're just going to fold it once and fold it again. Oh no, we don't. That's an absolute lie. We're going to just fold our corner in there like that, and then we're just going to bring it over. Don't know why I thought that. There we go. And then you get the perfect corner. So I'm going to put a clip in there because we are going to stitch right up to that end. So you do need a matching thread really, because you're now going to stitch on the binding, and you don't want cream stitching, but I will do that because then you can see how I've done it. So I'm just folding that in and just tucking that corner in a little bit and then folding it over. I've got a thread there which is annoying me. Let's just get rid of the thread. There we go. So let's put a clip in there, and just by putting a clip in there, it's keeping it, not only is it keeping it in place, but it's almost like a finger press of the fabric. And again, another clip there, and hopefully I've got that all in the right place for stitching. We shall soon see. Just make sure that is over. Okay, now the only tricky part here is when you flip this to the front, you've really got to make sure that you catch this corner here. You could, if you wanted to, hand stitch this and then start from here, and I've done that before now, but top stitching is obviously all the way along is easier, but you've got to remember that your top stitching will show on the binding here, so you could start in that corner again and go all the way down. Well, actually it would be this end. And we could start from there, and then this end one, this end piece here, we could just hand stitch. Okay, so what should we do? Should we go in from the, maybe what I'll do is I'll go in from the corner. So if I get my impromptu pokey tool, I'd start from here. Okay, otherwise I'm going to go cream on there. So the choice is yours really. And you could also most definitely use a decorative stitch. You could do a zigzag. That way you know you're going to catch the fabric both sides. It's I think that's always a good little tip. And oops, I've just come off my binding there, so it might be a bit, I might not have caught it there. I'll have a look when I've done it. And again, you can hand stitch the whole lot. I'm only doing it by machine to be quick. Oh, sorry, I haven't moved you. Sorry, apologies. I get so carried away in what I'm doing. As I say, hand stitching is always preferable for these things. So again, when you've come to that end there, you can either stitch right up to the end, or you can stop in the corner. We'll stop in the corner, and then we'll assume I will hand stitch that last little bit. So if we have a look at it now, let's just take that thread out. Okay, so have a look at that. You've got the perfect corner. Now we know that isn't caught there because we didn't start there. We started where my thumbnail is, right into the corner there, and we finished right into the corner there. So we know our ends are, I knew I'd come off there, but that's okay. So now all you would need to do is, obviously trim your threads, just get a little contrast matching thread and just hand stitch that little piece down. Again there, look, I missed that bit, but assume I hadn't. You're just going to hand stitch that little piece down. And what you've got at the front, which is more important, especially on a wall hanging particularly, is beautiful square corners. So it really does make a super job of it. All right. Nicola says if it's the CC scissors you're after, have a look in the tools section of Lizzie's Amazon shop. Have I got them in there, Nicola? Because I probably did at one stage. I need to tidy my shop up. Okay, so that I know I haven't done the bottom, but that is actually your binding done. So you've seen two different techniques of how you would do your binding, which is always useful to know regardless. Let's just have a quick look at the time. We've got about 8 minutes left. So if I just tuck this under and quickly clip it, so at least looks tidy, we can have a think about, just a think about quilting and what you would want to do for quilting. Now this happens to be this size, it just happens to be the same size as your flower blocks, 10 by 10. So it's a good example of what designs you might want to think about, because yesterday I said about, let's see if I can find my heat eraser ball, just a sec. Yeah, yesterday I talked, a couple of days ago I talked about echo quilting, and so therefore you could easily do that with this design. So what you can do is just take a ruler, measure out, let's say we're going to measure out 1/2 inch from these seams. This is not a bound piece now, this is your quilt block on your your beautiful flower quilt, and you can draw yourself. You can do it with a pen, you can do it with chalk pen. You could use your quilting guide with your walking foot, and please do use a walking foot. This is going to be tricky, but let's just do it anyway. And this will be your guide. That's not brilliant, but we're okay. We're fine. You get the gist of what I'm doing. And I would just go round each square as easy as peasy as that. So you can see what I'm talking about. Go in a ½ an inch all the way around. You've got your applique in the middle here, so that's going to be the focus of attention. You could, if you wanted to, if I get my quilt down, let's have a look at it real quick, and then I'll be able to explain better what I mean. So excuse me for a moment. Who pinned this up here? There's a gazillion pins. Here we go. Last one. That's it. All right. So let's get that one. Okay, let's get that one. Okay, so you could draw your ½ inch all the way around here. Hold on, let's get this straightened up a bit. And I think you'll find that, well, I think that would be enough. So let's just do that. Follow the lines of your, because that's obviously looks like it's stretched out a little bit. Let's quickly do it. Fortunately, because this is white, it won't leave a ghost mark. I don't know what I'm going to really do with mine yet. Not really. Keep thinking about it. So ignore the fact that it's joined onto this white block. So let's see if I can do that from here. There we go. So all you're going to do is you're not going to go right into the corner there. You can just, so there's your seam, if you can see it. So you're just going to stitch along there. Use your walking foot so it doesn't distort it. And if you can see now, that's actually quite enough to actually make this stand out a little bit. But you could, if you wanted to, you could do some more work. So for instance, you could go along a ½ an inch diagonally on certain parts. Perhaps get as far as the leaf, and don't go onto your applique. It could be that you could go in from here. So again, just watch your lines. You don't want to go into the flower. It could be that you only do 3 there, and again here you can go across. Maybe, what do you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe you want to do 4 like that, or we could do 5 like that. And so, well, you can see my angles aren't right here. But then you could go in like that. Now all of this is really easy because it's only using your ruler and your walking foot. You might want to leave it like that, but then of course you might want to, and do get your angles right, ladies. Do concentrate on this. I'm just doing this for quickness. So maybe you're only going to go 3 like that, and then do a line down here. So in no time at all, I've got a decent bit of quilting going on. And I tell you what else you can do, and again you would need to measure it. So I'm going to sort of guess, which is not always the best thing to do, but we'll give it a go. Is to take it, that wasn't a very good guess, but we could take it out like this. And again, this could all be done with your walking foot. So interesting designs could be made with just, as I say, with just your walking foot. So look at that. I mean, that's lovely. Actually, it looks like art, doesn't it? Which is really nice. So that could be your quilting. You've got to remember, oh, thank you, Gillian. Gillian sent me 20 stars. Just remember that whatever you see on the front, you'll see on the back. So you've got to like what you see, like what you've done, because that's what you're going to see. Don't forget also, you might want to quilt your piano keys. So you might want to go around the whole edge, again, with a 1/2 inch bit of quilting there. Oh, that hasn't... that's it. So again, you might want to just quilt along here. You might want to echo that down here. You're going to have the binding on, so that's going to help. So you could do a second line there going out, and all this is really easy. So and then you could go again, you could do again, or you could take your piano keys, and maybe you could even quilt. Wish this was coming out dark, and my pen's rubbish. You could even quilt in a diagonal line, possibly, along each one like that. So there's lots of different things you could do. It depends what sort of look. You could also look at the wavy stitches on your machine and do all this in a wavy line, so it's not straight, so it kind of echoes the roundness of the flowers. That would look quite nice. Yeah, Kath says she's so undecided about quilting. Yeah, I could put it out for auction for the hospice. Yeah, we got to do that this month now, Dawn. If anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, we're doing a charity, well, probably 2 or 3 quilts to raise money for each. We've got all the blocks ready. I've got about, well, maybe about 400 blocks, so it's got to be done now. So you could do that and incorporate your piano keys, or you don't have to quilt that at all. It's only going to be a 4-inch strip, and with this sort of batting it says to quilt every 4 inches, so you know you're covered really. The binding is going to hold it all together anyway, but you can see from a simple thought process I've now got quite a nice design going on there, and I would personally quilt this in an off-white. Even though this is white, I would go for an off-white and not make it stand out so much, but just the quilting, because obviously I've done this in blue, and it obviously is standing out quite a lot. When it's actually quilted, all you see is the shadows of the quilting, don't you? So there we are, lots of all gone lots of thoughts about quilting and what you would want to do. And as I say, if you can afford it, take it to a long arm quilter. When I say afford it, you know, they do a fantastic service, but obviously it's something you need to know if it's something that's in your budget, let's put it that way. So there we are, that's all done, ready, as I say, for quilting now. So I will sit back for a little while and think about, yes, wavy lines are very forgiving, Sue, you're quite right. And soon as I finish mine, which will probably be next week, I will post it in the Making It Special group and on my page, so you can see it, see what it looks like. Might give you some inspiration of how to tackle yours. But what I do suggest is that you don't quilt over the flowers. So even if you did a stipple quilting, I would just go up to the edge of the flowers. I wouldn't go over the top, it would spoil them. You've done such a lot of good work with those flowers, so yeah, you don't want to be stitching over the top of them. Good, okay, well that's it, that's our 12 days. Thank you so much indeed for watching, for taking part, for enjoying, for sending me coffees, for sending me stars. It's been an absolute joy for me to be here with you every night, and to think we started off at Christmas and now here we are well into the depths of January now. The cold weather is on its way, so we've been told, so we'll definitely feel like it's the winter very, very soon. But you've got something to keep you occupied for a few days, and you've got something to keep you cosy when you're finished. And I'd love to see your finished quilts. It will be an absolute treat for me to see them. It makes me happy to see a design that I've come up with interpreted by yourselves. Right. Oh, Jerry says it's snowing here today. Gosh. Yeah, so thank you. What? We've learnt so much, haven't we? We've done so much. It's ticked so many boxes and created something beautiful. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. Right, I shall leave you to it. I shall get this last episode up onto YouTube and complete the playlist, and then sometime next week, when I've got 5 minutes spare, I'll do the list of all the techniques we covered, so you know where to find them. So thank you all very much indeed. I'll go through the comments a little bit later this evening. Vanessa says, thank you very much. She's just got to organise herself now. Haven't we all, Vanessa? Haven't we all? So I will see some of you on the 14th of January, which is when we do our free motion workshop. And the first thing you need to bring to the workshop is a pencil and a piece of paper, or a pen and a piece of paper, or several bits of paper. That's how we're going to start off. I've put a list in the workshop Facebook page of everything that you need. I've added a couple of extra things over the last couple of days, so do keep looking at that featured post of the list that you need. Some of it you can do without, but really some of them you do need. You definitely need an embroidery hoop, so get onto Amazon and get yourself an embroidery hoop. So that's the free motion workshop on the 14th. I will see most of you actually next week in the members, on the members page, where we will start our making a card project, and it's not papercraft, it's stitching. Right, thank you very much for your company. I will see you all again very, very soon. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Thank you so much for attending every evening. It's been absolutely wonderful. I've enjoyed every minute. Bye bye everybody.